Hi, everybody. If we haven't met, my name is Brian Cashman. I'm with the Goodhue County Education District in Red Wing, and I'm fortunate enough today to be with Charlene out of the Fillmore County Journal. And she's going to, in a few minutes here, explain a little more about herself and her role. But Charlene, thank you so much for taking time to be a part of this interview today.
Thank you. You're welcome. My name is Charlene Selby, and I am a freelance reporter for the Fillmore County Journal. It's kind of an interesting story that you'll get to hear. But I get to write government articles. So that means I cover 9 school board, city council, county commission meetings every month. And then I also write feature stories. And before long, I will be having a weekly column on tourism, because that's really my background is tourism.
Oh, wow. Well, so you mentioned a little bit of tourism. You mentioned your role with the paper, and you mentioned you have an interesting story. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about how you got to where you're at today and maybe how that intersects with tourism as well?
So I have 30 years working in the tourism industry in New Mexico and in Iowa. And all my degrees, and I have and I say all because I have an associate, and then I went and did a bachelor's, and then I went and did a master's, and all of mine are in business, marketing, and tourism, specifically tourism. And my master's I did in sustainable tourism, which is actually pretty fascinating for me. I never thought I didn't know there was a degree like that.
Yeah.
And I also got to do it online, which meant that my master's is from Washington, D.C., and I did it while I was sitting in New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so my whole background is tourism, and the way I got started, and I never know quite how far to go back, but I'm going to say even into high school and 4-H. When I was in 4-H, I was involved with working at a food stand during the Wenatchee County Fair. And so that was hospitality, that was tourism, with all those people coming in to see a fair, to visit the fair. And then being in high school, when you get involved with planning events, and I have been told, and I'm not sure how this person really knows this, but he worked with me a lot in New Mexico, that I probably have done over 5,000 different events.
Oh, wow.
And so I guess I got started doing events when I was a 4-H'er, and also in high school. Some people even go farther back when I did that 3rd grade field trip to effigy mounds south of Decorah, which is where I live, or Vesterheim Museum. So that's kind of a real quick way of how I got started. But I ended up in New Mexico, and from there, I guess I was a visitor. I was a tourist, and I found out that I could do that for a living. And so proud to say I had 30 years in New Mexico, pretty close to 30 years, promoting destinations, promoting New Mexico. And it was a lot of fun. I will tell you, I had a good time.
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it in your voice even. That's fantastic. And you mentioned, Charlene, that you so you high school, well, even backing up, like you said, 4-H, high school, then you received an associate's, then a bachelor, then a master's. Would you mind just talking a little bit about that pathway and maybe what was good about that, or what you learned from that approach?
Sure. Well, I think it's kind of interesting because I'm not sure anybody expected me in high school to go on and get a degree. But it's interesting because I actually love going to school. And throughout my career, at the end of my career in New Mexico, before I moved back to Iowa, I actually was teaching tourism and hospitality classes at New Mexico State University and Central New Mexico Community College. So to me, getting a degree was pretty natural. Which is why I'm actually involved in this program, because I was very fortunate to have a lot of people who guided me, a lot of professional people who assisted me. And I have to admit, they're still there today. In fact, just before we got on Zoom, I was communicating with somebody that has been my mentor all these years. So they're still out there. I still utilize them even to this day, and with my job at the Fillmore County Journal.
Well, you think about today's high school students and think about your own experience. What advice would you have for today's young people in terms of looking to do something after high school or move on in further education or different job areas? Any advice you would have for them?
Oh, absolutely. I probably have too much advice, but I'll narrow that really down. And I guess it kind of ties into me working at the Journal,
Okay.
is to take a risk.
Hmm.
And I have taken a lot of risks all the way through my career. I've never had just one job and stayed with it the whole time.
Hmm.
That would never fit my personality. I've been able to travel all over the world because of my jobs in tourism. And then obviously working for the paper, I'd have to say I never dreamed I would be working on that side of promoting destinations.
Yeah.
I've worked a lot with travel writers and the media,
Hmm.
but I didn't think I would be on this side, writing 5, 6, 7 stories a week. And I'm really glad I took the risk. And I will tell you what's a risk. It's
Hmm.
okay, I'm ready to put myself out there in front of everybody. So that would be my biggest advice. Take a risk, go for it, try it. And don't even worry if it isn't what you expected and you have to take a different path. Not a problem. Go for it.
Yeah. That's such an important message. And I think you're such a great role model for the young people that will be watching this interview just in your own career. And like you said, you probably could have taken it easy, but you took another risk late in your career. And we're certainly glad that you're a part of Southeast Minnesota. That's for sure. And I find it really interesting that you had this just extensive hospitality and tourism background prior to coming to the Journal. That's fascinating. Maybe one more question for Charlene,
Okay.
and that would be if you were to recommend a certain skill or maybe a couple skills that young people should try to work on or try to get just to have success in their professional career, what might that skill or a couple skills be in your opinion?
One of them is, and this I'm going to probably, it's a skill I guess my dad probably taught me or shared with me.
Hmm.
And I've had the opportunity to see it because one of the things I did working in New Mexico, I worked on the reservations.
Hmm.
And so is communication, is being willing to talk to people. I will tell you that some of the young people that I worked with on the reservations, it was really challenging for them
Hmm.
to go off the reservation and talk to visitors or strangers, as you want to put it, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
So I would recommend getting really comfortable talking to people and talking to people you don't know.
Hmm.
And then another one is, and I'm going to have to put it out there, is being able to write. Just
Hmm.
keep writing.
Sure.
And just keep doing it, whether it's writing in a journal every day, whether it is writing thank you notes. I had one of my tourism professors always said, handwritten notes, send out those handwritten notes. And I still do those to this day.
Yeah.
So just keep writing and don't think that they have to be, if you learned in high school that you need to write a 10-page paper or you end up in college and they tell you that, that's one piece, but just keep writing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing I've come to appreciate, Charlene, is the newspaper folks put in a lot of hours. And you mentioned you're covering school boards and county meetings and committees, and you're doing feature articles and you're doing promotions. And so you're a very busy person and a lot of hours. So thanks again for taking the time to be with me today and for sharing what you shared with us. Thank you.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it and I look forward to working with students.
All right. Thank you.